And also, I think when you talk about institutions, we really have to change the conversation about what we believe about child sexual abuse and what we tell children about child sexual abuse. The reality is 90% of all children know their abuser. However, we only spend 5% of our time educating and talking about what happens to children 90% of the time. And we spend the other 90% of our time educating children about strangers that are going to jump out of the bushes, that they'll be able to identify that's going to attack them. So never talk to a stranger, you know, look for someone who's different from you, and that, you know, that's the person. So that
the streets can be safer than our homes.
Yeah, and they are. Yeah, and we work with young people who have lived on the street in lieu of being in their homes.
Exactly. Mr. Flynn. Well, like I said, you were extraordinary, and I'm curious. This is part of your story. Was this part of the story? I mean,
yes, the story of James X, you know, has a lot of resonance in my own life. It's not a direct autobiographical story. Right. It's not a direct personal story. But nonetheless, it is made up of emotional connections. It is made up of...
Can you talk a bit more into the mic?
It's made up of emotional memory, emotional connections, and it is made up of truths and facts. But it is not, you know what I mean, my own personal story, because that is a different story altogether. And again, all of those kind of issues of personal story are all about the issue, you know, of the various layers within the issues of it. But it's safe to say that yes, it is, you know, I mean, based on the truths of my own life and truths of the many lives that I've come across on the issue of child sexual abuse, as written about in the Irish situation and also written about in the global situation.
Thank you. What's been the response, may I ask, in Ireland to James X?
The response in Ireland is rather a peculiar one, because Ireland, you know, I mean, as a whole, the Republic of Ireland is like one large institution. Completely institutionalized from head to toe. When you consider that there is very few people in the Irish Republic who haven't gone through the Catholic system of the Christian Brothers, all the judiciary, all the guards, all the hierarchy, all of them have gone through this. It's no surprise that the 250,000 children that were locked in the institutions were basically from vulnerable, poor backgrounds, that there was class, that there was a politic in there, and there was an indifference, that by and large these children got criminalized. So when the story came out from the institutions, these are the criminalized institutions, of sexual abuse, it was very difficult, because the prosecutors and the police refused to acknowledge it, because most of us were criminalized. So it was very difficult. And we were coming from that background that they would say, oh, well, you know, they're kind of frantic, and they're those kind of people, and they're devious, and they're cunning, and you'd want to watch out. So it was very difficult to get the story actually told. What did change the story, however, was when the Freedom of Information Act came about, and people were allowed to get their documents. And of course, you know, the Irish, being the generous people that they are, didn't really see any problem and released the documents wholesale until they realised that all the documents contained all the information, and then all of a sudden they started to close that down very quickly. It became very obvious. The story that's being told in Ireland is being received, but it's being othered, because the middle classes haven't really absorbed it, and it's been sentimentalised, and it's been reprojected onto victimisation. So for instance, when I did a show here, some people would say to me, I'm very sorry for what happened to you. I'm never standing there like 52 years of age, 53 actually, fully recovered individual in my life. And nothing's happened to me out here tonight except that I performed a piece of professional work. What's happening to the person who's projecting I'd be more concerned about. So there's all of these issues. So Ireland's in a transition place. It's important to know this much though, which is I think really important, and it's at the core of it, is that in no way under the sun is the Catholic Church being criminalised in relation to the organised paedophilia, to the organised evading and abetting of the escape of all these paedophiles. And it's unfortunate that the state officers and the state prosecutors and the state that we have in Ireland actually are the co-accused. So you have this situation. On top of that then, you have a fair amount of the congregation, the religious brothers and priests and nuns, who went global. And a lot of those who abused in Ireland were shifted around the diocese and then went global. So, for instance, we have now Oliver O'Grady, the well-known paedophile who was subject to the documentary Deliverers from Evil, roaming around the streets of Dublin with no sanction on him whatsoever.
Maybe you can help us understand the system. You know, if I report sexual abuse, you know, in Ireland, what, you know, is it very similar to here with the investigation process and you know, and how it gets support, if it does, or?
Well,